While discussing the possibility of Donald Trump getting indicted and arrested for the hush money payments that were given to Stormy Daniels in the lead up to the 2016 presidential election, Cenk and I got into a debate about the Republican voters. And I want to be clear about a distinction here. We're talking about ordinary Republican voters, ordinary people, versus actual powerful Republicans in office or powerful Republicans in the media. That's where he and I seem to have a little bit of a disagreement, right? Because I think you should probably back off of ordinary people and focus most of the energy, if not all of your energy, on power structures and the elite. With that said, Cenk made a statement that, yes, triggered me yesterday, and I'll explain why. First, let's watch it.
Most Republicans agree with Mike Lindell when he says if you arrest them, Trump is more likely to win.
Yeah.
You know why? Republican voters like criminals.
No, that's not. I don't think that's what it is. Like, come on, just be fair, Cenk. It's not because they love. Because you're being ridiculous. No, you're not being fair. You're being purposely inflammatory and ridiculous. No, they'll see Trump as like some sort of victim, right?
Yes.
As someone who's being targeted politically. Poor guy. We got to stick up for him. So I want to explain my reaction to it real quick because I've just been less and less interested in hyperbole and generalizations, right? Like for me, there's two things happening. Number one, I have an issue strategically with doing that because I know full well what the media ecosystem looks like. I know how people get radicalized and propagandized based on the filter bubbles they exist in. And when you think about how the system is set up in this country, both politically and media-wise, it is easy for people to fall down this rabbit hole of right-wing radicalization because if you're just watching Fox News, if you're just watching OAN, all you're hearing day in and day out is the worst twisted perspective on the left, on the Biden administration, on social spending, on all the issues that we care about, right? In fact, one of the things that I've noticed is the right wing loves to tell right wing voters, oh, the left, they're just full of elitists. They think you're trash. They think they're better than you. And then they'll come across content where we'll say disparaging things about them. We'll put them down. Oh. And I think that is playing right into right-wing media's trap. And I have an issue with that as well.
Okay, so obviously I have a lot to say, but let me start with this. First of all, the reason why I say the right wing loves criminals in the context of always defending Donald Trump's crimes, let alone the crimes of many, many other Republicans, right? Is because they generally have a concept of the rule of law is for you, but I don't want any rules or laws binding me. I'm interested in power, I'm not interested in justice. I think there is a difference between the right and the left. I think the left has a more expansive view of who equality and justice should apply to, which is everybody. And the right thinks, no, I want equality and justice for me and people inside my wagons. I don't really want it for you. So I think there is a difference. And I think that it's important that there are warriors on our side. Because in my lifetime, all I've ever had is pathetic weakling Democrats who never fight back against endless assault by the right wing. The right wing assaults. And then our guys come in and go, oh, sorry, but we love Republican voters. So I don't want that. I don't want that at all. We've got to fight for you. At the same time, of course, Anna's not wrong in saying we have to come together somehow. And the culture wars, which she talks about all the time, culture wars are a distraction.
No, and it's intentionally meant to divide us, and that has happened.
So how do you fix that riddle? And that's the conversation, which is that you have to fight back against the other side. But if you do it so much, well, then you're never gonna get to actually fight the real bad guys, who are the guys up top who are getting us to fight while they're robbing the place blind.
Okay, so where I draw a line or the distinction is the culture wars are waged by the powerful, right? It's a form of manipulation. It's a way to keep us divided, to control us, and to aid and abet, their corporate donors in essentially redistributing wealth, continuing to redistribute wealth from the bottom to the top. The thing is, you talk about warriors, like I want warriors. I'm sick of these mealy-mouthed Democrats. I hear you on that. But we should be warriors against the power structure. We should be warriors against the propagandists in right-wing media, right? Those who actually have the power. I think that we make the mistake of assuming that every single right-wing voter who defends Trump knows that Trump engaged in criminality, but they don't care. Now, are there some Republican voters who think like that? I'm sure, of course. Do I think every single Republican voter falls in that camp? No, I don't. Just based on the misinformation that they are fed intentionally by right-wing media every single day, right? Yeah. And they hear nothing else. They hear no other perspective other than whatever exists in that right-wing ecosystem.
So is propaganda an enormous part of the answer? Of course, there's no question about it. Are there good guys on the Republican side who have been misled by a number of factors? One is right-wing media. Oh my God, do you know what they're doing to the M&Ms? You should be really angry. Oh, trans athletes in schools, there's 12 of them. You should be really angry, right? So that is an enormous factor. In fact, that's the #1 factor. And there are plenty of people that I know who, unfortunately, humans are super open to influence, okay? I've told you a couple of times, my uncle voted for Trump, even though Trump was talking about banning Muslim immigrants from the country when he's a Muslim immigrant, right? So propaganda is a hell of a drug. And my uncle's not a bad guy. Another friendly friend I have, a lovely, great guy, unbelievable guy.
Does your uncle love crime?
So hold on, okay? No, but now Fox News has convinced them that it's okay if Donald Trump commits crimes. But it's okay if Republican leaders commit crimes.
Hold on 1 second, Cenk. Fox News never acknowledges that Trump has committed crimes. In fact, Fox News is now dealing with a $1.6 billion defamation lawsuit.
They know. So there's a poll out today. 65% of Americans say Donald Trump definitely committed a crime. 41% of Republicans say Donald Trump definitely committed a crime.
Okay.
They just go, I don't care. I don't care that he committed a crime.
So look, that 41%, wrong. But you gotta be specific and say 41% of Republican voters, according to this poll, acknowledge Trump's criminality and they don't care.
And get real, another 40%, no he didn't, but they won't acknowledge it, okay?
Okay, but you're just stating that as fact. Okay, so let me do exactly what you're doing, but to the left, okay? And tell me whether or not you guys would take well to this argument. I personally would not take well because I identify as someone who's on the left and I don't agree with this, right? Okay, so let's go to San Francisco. That's in the headlines quite a bit these days. I gotta give you the context of the story so you understand where I'm coming from. So over the weekend, there was this big story about a CNN reporter who got robbed twice. Okay, so the 2 CNN employees went to San Francisco specifically to report on property crimes and an uptick in crime in San Francisco overall. So Kyung Lah tweeted that she and the senior producer for CNN's Los Angeles bureau were inside City Hall for an interview, okay, when thieves allegedly broke into their car, breaking the window, and then they removed items within seconds. So she writes, got robbed again. Jason and I were at City Hall in San Francisco to do an interview for CNN. We had security to watch our rental car plus crew car. Like they had security with them and they had already had this incident happen to them. They didn't want to repeat, which is why they got the security, right? Now, thieves did this in under 4 seconds. Security stopped the jerks from stealing other bags, but seriously, this is ridiculous. And look, the property crimes in San Francisco are ridiculous. It's brazen, it happens in the middle of the day. In fact, it happens so often that you're about to see what airlines have done in response to it. But she continues in this thread by saying, San Francisco is a beautiful city. This is our 3rd day here and I've loved my time here. But if you do visit the city, know that even with hired security watching your car, it is not enough. Now, they stole her bags, which included her passport and identification. So she was worried about being able to fly back home, but get a load of this. Because so many people get their cars broken into and their bags stolen, she wrote. Southwest Air was very used to my lack of ID problem and smoothly gave me my ticket after a brief security check off to TSA now. Now you might say, all right, Anna, like what does this have to do with the left? Are you just highlighting this because it happened in San Francisco, which of course is pretty progressive? It's more than that, okay? Because the San Francisco Democratic Party endorsed a district attorney candidate, and you're about to hear from him. His name is John Hamasaki, who takes to mocking victims of these types of crimes. For instance, one person had written on Twitter, my teammates will be scarred forever. This person is a foreigner and also dealt with a similar situation. Being robbed hits you at your core, especially when it's thousands of dollars of loss. There is no downtown recovery without an aggressive push for safety. And then he tagged Mayor London Breed. Now, the district attorney candidate that was endorsed by the Democratic Party in San Francisco said, interesting, would getting your car window broken and some stuff stolen leave you scarred forever? Is this what the suburbs do to you? Shelter you from basic city life experiences so that when they happen, you are broken to the core? He's writing this to someone who traveled to the United States from another country, basically telling him, oh, you're a victim of crime, you can go F off, okay?
So is there a portion of the left that is way too permissive about crime? Yeah, of course there is. So, but first of all, look at this. I acknowledge an obvious reality. Already in right-wing media, that would be impossible, right? They would never acknowledge that they have radical right, etc. So, but okay, now let's look at how left-wing voters dealt with that versus right-wing voters, right? So Hamasaki, by the way, lost. In Seattle, they elected a bunch of progressives because they thought progressive means helping the average person, making progress towards equality, etc. That's true, it does mean those things. And then for whatever reason, the crazed left-wing activists in Seattle said, no, that means we just set up a nonstop crime central in the middle of Seattle and destroy everything in our path and believe in anarchy. And then the left-wing voters of Seattle were like, no, that's not what we meant. Most of you are fired. Okay, same thing happened in Portland. Same thing's gonna happen in San Francisco and in LA. The prosecutor recalled very left-wing voters saying, I am against this. Whereas Republicans, 41% say, yeah, I know Trump's a criminal, so what?
Okay, that's fair enough. And by the way, I'm just being clear in that I believe that it is wrong to take examples like this and make a blanket statement about the left loving crime, okay? But let me give you more. Because Los Angeles is a little different. By the way, a few more things I gotta tell you about this guy. He is insane because he's in favor of, I guess, teenagers having possession of stolen guns. Here's another example. So apparently there was a post on Twitter about how a stolen 9mm gun was confiscated from a 17-year-old teenager, right? Hamasaki responded to that by saying, uncomfortable truth, taking a gun from one kid may as likely stop violence as end up in that kid getting killed. It may feel good to post this photo, but I've known too many kids who were killed for being in the wrong neighborhood, often their own, and unable to protect. The 17-year-old was in possession of a stolen gun. And this guy has a problem with that gun being taken away from him.
And he's like, oh, he's using it for his protection. First of all, how do you know? Second of all, no, 17-year-olds don't get to walk around with stolen weapons and say, oh, it's for my protection. How do you know that guy wasn't gonna commit a significant crime with that stolen weapon, which is already a significant crime? But
so with the Democratic establishment in San Francisco endorsing this guy, one could argue, right? I would say it's inaccurate. One could argue the left loves crime, but the left doesn't love crime.
No, but Anna,
that is a mischaracterization.
But those leftists there, I think, are extreme, and yeah, they think crime is not that big a deal. They say it all the time.
Representative of all left-wing voters.
Of course not, but that's my point.
So I just look. All I'm asking for is specificity, right? And I'm also asking for, just stay away from hyperbole and needlessly making blanket statements about whole swaths of the population.
No, but Anna, so
that's the problem I have.
We're not getting to the heart of the problem. So look, the Republicans, generally speaking, and not just generally speaking, I give you specific examples, are the aggressors, right? So we didn't just pass hundreds of laws against straight people in the country. They just passed hundreds of laws.
The politicians, and we should fight them, Cenk.
Do you think the Republican voters are against those laws? Be honest.
Cenk, I mean, what do they hear? Constant libs of TikTok, constant propaganda that's meant to scare them about the others. You know this.
I know, but Anna, so what do we do? Because we can't just go, okay, hey, you know what? Let's throw gay people under the bus. That is not what I'm suggesting. I know you're not suggesting that. So I'm asking, what do we do?
Okay, so do you think that you persuade them by saying you guys are stupid, you guys love crime, you guys are hateful. Ordinary people, are you persuading them, or are you just releasing, the emotional frustration that I also feel myself?
No, this is super important, and this is a good question, and it has a very good answer. So we're in a political battlefield. We have to win on these elections so we can win on the bills, because they're winning the elections and winning the bills, and they're actually passing laws saying that gay people are so evil we can't have innocent kids hear about their existence, okay?
Right.
So I cannot let that stand. So how do you win? You win by winning the middle, okay? So that's why sometimes when the left goes extreme, that doesn't help winning the middle. Okay, and it's, you have to look at the polling to see what people actually want. They defunded the police. You poll it in African American neighborhoods, and it polls terribly. Don't tell me that they want it when they don't want it. That's what you're talking about, and that's the elite saying, "Oh, this is what the people want." It's not true. But when you're talking about winning the middle, you have to say, yeah, if you're on that side, it's not okay. It's not normal. It's not, hey, 50-50, should we hate the gays or should we not hate the gays? No, if you hate people for who they are, you're a bit of a monster. I know you got turned into a monster by right-wing media and propaganda and let's be honest, religion, etc. Okay, but people don't like honesty. So we're stuck,
I don't think.
But in terms of the middle, no, I don't want you to think, as every stupid Democrat has done my entire life, could be. Maybe you should hate black people and Latinos and immigrants and gays and all these people. I don't want to offend Republican voters. I don't want to offend them. Okay, so I gotta be a warrior for that. And Anna, you're a warrior for that, and you're an awesome warrior for that.
I know, I direct my ire toward those in power, Cenk. Because I believe, look at Florida as a perfect example. They elected Obama twice. Look at Florida now, right? Obviously people can be persuaded, and you give up too easily, like you just do. We have policy ideas that are appealing across the aisle, period. But all of the focus by the mainstream Democratic Party is because they're paid by their donors and they don't actually want to push for the economic policies that would be popular. They dive into the culture wars too, right?
Yeah.
So it's like this endless, like you're bad, no, you're bad, you're a terrible person, you're a terrible person. I'm not saying you don't fight the right wing power players, you absolutely do. But if we're to have anyone outside of our political group be receptive to the popular policy ideas that we have, we can't persuade them by immediately attacking them and writing them off as all bad people. You guys are all bad people, you guys all love crime, you all love this, you all love that. It just doesn't make sense to me. And I disagree with your theory of change. The whole thing about winning over the middle, that is what elections have been about for decades. No, but they have a false middle. Their middle is, bipartisan compromise that we should give billions more to corporations, and that's the middle of the country. That ain't the middle of the country. The middle of the country is an average guy, an average woman working their ass off, barely making it, etc. Right? So I address the actual middle as opposed to the Democratic Party. Look, here's my solution. And this is what I've been doing to the best of my ability, and often very wrongly, I'm sure, right? But I play both defense and offense. So if you're gonna attack people, we're going to defend them, period, okay? At the same time, and this is what none of the rest of the Democratic Party do. Bernie does it a little bit, Justice Democrats do it a tiny bit, but Justice Democrats do nothing.
Tiny.
Yeah.
Okay, what you have to do is play offense on economic issues.
Yes.
Do you want higher wages, or do you want the Republican plan of lower wages? Do you want healthcare, or don't you want healthcare? For God's sake, this is the one thing Anna and I agree most on. Play offense on economic issues. And look, right wing, let me just say this. I don't mind if you hate me. I'm gonna fight you and you're gonna fight me, okay? On these culture war issues, it probably lasts the rest of our lifetime, okay? But can we just agree on things that are not culture war issues? Don't you want higher wages and healthcare? And I know some of you say, no, not if it means working with a lib. And by the way, some of us say, not if it means working with a bigot, a racist, a homophobe, etc., etc. So both sides fight the culture wars either now or later, but you have to fight together on economic issues where the people at the top, the donors, are crushing the living crap out of both of us. Let's stop the robbery first, and then we can go back to fighting.
How do you get people to work together when the beginning of that proposal is, we hate you guys, we think you're stupid, we think you love criminals?
They hate us. You think they don't hate us?
No, they do hate us. They do hate us.
Yeah, so what I'm saying is it's okay. Hate us, we hate you, but let's work together so we don't get robbed. The guy's walking away with the freaking money. Let's stop the robbery first. So it's just an honest way of dealing with it. Instead of saying like, oh my God, maybe you guys are right about X, Y, or Z.
No, I never said that, Cenk. I never, what, the straw, okay.
That is a straw man.
That is no, you love straw manning. You love it. I'm trying to be as fair as possible during this conversation. You're intentionally misrepresenting what I'm saying here. Obviously, I don't agree with the hateful rhetoric. I don't like any of it, okay? But it's really interesting to me that when you had a candidate like Obama who ran on hope and change, who ran on economic issues, all of these people who are now enamored with Donald Trump actually voted for Obama. Gee, I wonder why that is. Could it be that in lieu of a candidate that actually represents their economic interests, they just go for the cult of personality who owns the libs? That is what happens. That is our political landscape right now. So we can continue attacking ordinary people that we disagree with, and to be sure, I do disagree with them. But we have to also, more importantly, if you ask me, focus on the systems that has created this mess in the first place. And sometimes I feel like the focus isn't where it needs to be. That's all I'm saying.
All right, super last thing on it. Look, Anna's, again, not wrong about the facts. So Obama, when he came into office, had around an 80% approval rating. So if the whole country was racist or all Republicans were racist, why was his approval rating that high? Why did he win a whole bunch of red states, right? So if you think the only answer is racism, bigotry, etc., you're wrong. The facts do not prove out your thesis, okay?
Right.
So, but if you think that problem doesn't exist, well, you're probably not on the left anyway. Of course it exists, right? And of course it applies to some people, but whether it's the majority or half of Republicans or a third of Republicans, I don't know. But I do know that whatever percentage of Republicans that is, they're winning their primaries, they're winning general elections, and they're passing laws that enforce their hatred of us onto all of society, right? Whereas our side can't play defense or offense. So I'm trying to help on both fronts, but I'm sure very imperfectly so. And this is a good conversation. It'll continue probably for years. Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.